Welcome to Badger Pack Sports Podcast with your hosts Justin Legal and Robbie Sorensen. Your home for all things Wisconsin sports. Whether it's Badger football, hoops, or Packers talk, we're bringing the takes, the laughs, and the latest updates. Let's get into it.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Badger Pack Sports. Gonna be going through our mock draft again. Doing a full 32 team first round mock. We've been having fun with these, and seems like the viewers are too. So we decided to keep rolling them out. Joined here as always by my buddy Justin. Justin, how's it going?
I'm going to be sad when we're done with these. These are a ton of fun. And the draft is 1 week away. We are recording on April 17th. We are 7 days away from seeing how chaotic things are going to be over at Lambeau. It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be crazy there. So, no, definitely excited. And most of our picks will be wrong. So,
probably
just ready for that.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I get a few right. Get a few right here and there.
Well, for those that, hold on 1 second. Got a little tickle in my throat. Professional production here. But anyways, for those that are familiar with our mock drafts, we're going to do PFF in one round, no trades. Maybe next week, Robbie, we do a little draft bonanza or something because that's the week of, and we do maybe a couple more mocks, and we definitely want the feedback from you guys in the audience too to let us know what you want to see. But for today's exercise,
and we've joked that we will have our wives do a mock draft. So I don't know if they'll be Packers or this one. It could be fun to see them. They'd probably just go off the board. Like it would just be go off the needs. It could be pretty funny.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we're going to dive in. And again, our approach here is if we were the GM of these teams, this is what we would do. And the drafts are going to be different from previous episodes. We don't want to do repeats. This is what the whole fun of a mock draft is to kind of see the different ways the board can fall. So
are we doing a 3-round Packer mock
today?
Or are we doing a full? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a 3-round Packer mock too. For sure.
No, you only click Packers. That's why I said.
Oh, wow.
Let's see.
Let's go back here.
Uh-oh.
It is amateur hour here at the.
Gotta select all.
There we go. All right. Thanks for catching that before we started. If I would have clicked that start draft, we'd have been in trouble.
You only got it as 1 round now too. We're not drafting three rounds.
I am very certain. Yes, round 1.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
I was gonna say this is gonna be one of our longest videos, guys. We're gonna be doing some digging here.
That'd be fun. Hey, if you want to see that, drop it in the comments. We'll do one. But again, we want to look out for you guys. We want to keep these videos in around a half an hour, not an hour and a half. But yeah, we got all teams selected 1 round. Let's enter the draft. Let's start the draft. And
Justin's got first pick.
Yeah, we're gonna go. Last episode I had the first pick that I did. I shocked the world and did Abdul Carter. Yeah. I still think that should be the pick, but I'm not going to do repeats. I'm still convicted that Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft, but from what we've been hearing and all the smoke is pointing to Cam Ward, and it's not really much of a debate at this point, so I'm not going to be silly. I will take Cam Ward at pick number 1.
Yep, and then number 2, the Browns. I think it just makes sense to pair Myles Garrett with Abdul Carter there.
So you really like Abdul Carter going too?
Yeah. Or I like the Cowboys to trade up, and trade Dak, for that number 2 pick there, and then take Shedeur Sanders at number 2. Bring Shedeur back to, bring him to Dallas.
Set the pathways for Dad to come and coach for the Cowboys in a couple of years.
Exactly.
And Colorado kicks him out for retiring his son's jersey that really shouldn't be retired, but I digress. So we are looking here at number 3 with the Giants, and I think Travis Hunter makes the most sense here. They're set with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson for the season. I don't think they're going to force the issue to pick a quarterback. I know they had a private workout with Shedeur this week. I feel like if you're still bringing guys in for private workouts a week before the draft, I think you're on the fence. And I think if you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, you don't want to be on the fence. I think Travis Hunter is a for sure guy. Once in a lifetime athlete, just incredible dude. So I think he's gonna be a great fit there with the Giants.
Yeah, but then this one's hard because, like, part of me almost wants to go Mason Graham because I just feel like Vrabel is a defensive coach. It's not necessarily a need. It'd be kind of fun to give him Ashton Genty, I must say, just because it's like he goes from having Derrick Henry to Ashton Genty, but obviously two different backs there. I think Will Campbell is kind of the big one that I think most people are going with.
Yeah, well, yep, the tackle there. I know he has the short arm concern.
Yeah.
I think he's an absolute stud. I mean, look at all these starts last 3 years at left tackle.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. Or
but,
snaps.
I think I'm going to go defensive minded, though. I think I'm going to go Mason Graham, kind of switch things up here.
Yeah, and pair well with Milton Williams. They just signed that big deal from
Yeah.
from the Eagles, so they can really beef up the trenches. And that gives us the Duval Jags.
Yep.
And they need a lot of help. I'm looking here. I know this is a tricky one to draft. They say the receiver is a need. They got Brian Thomas. I don't know if they would. I mean, they could go Ted McMillan, but I don't think he's worth the 5th pick overall.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if I look here, I think they really look at solidifying that offensive line and protecting Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has had a lot of injury concerns. I think you bring in a guy like Will Campbell and plug him into the line, and you can't go wrong with that, especially with an offensive-minded head coach and Trevor Lawrence who's just been getting banged up.
I was going to say, I could see those picks being swapped there for sure.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
All right, and now to the Las Vegas Raiders. Ooh, this is going to be an interesting one. It's like, do they take a guy like Ted McMillan?
It shows receivers as one of the needs. Here's your receivers on the board.
Make sure to give Geno Smith a weapon there.
Yep.
But Ted's been falling, but it's like, is that smoke? Is the question. Are people trying to kind of tank his stock?
The production is there. I mean, 23 and 24, absolute monster, and that he has the body, 6'5", 212. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's falling. I know there were some reports about some comments he made as a freshman on some side.
Yeah, well, he doesn't
interview.
watch tape or something. It was a weird one. Like he doesn't watch football or something like that.
Yeah, kind of weird. 18. He was a freshman in college. I think it was like at a lunchroom or something. He was just talking with some guy, and I'm sure that has changed quite a bit. Yep. And his production speaks for itself.
Yeah, one time 4 years ago, he said something. I think I'm going to go Ted McMillan.
Yep. It's a good pick. And then him and Brock Bowers can be a force on the outside with tight end and the receiver. And that takes us to the Aaron Glenn led New York Jets. And honestly, I think we see a quarterback come off the board here. You look at PFF rankings, I think Jackson Dart's being disrespected. But I'm going to go with Shedeur Sanders here. And I think, Aaron Rodgers is out of town. They have Justin Fields, and that's it. Like, who else do they have? You bring in a guy like Shedeur. I think Aaron Glenn's a good culture guy. I'm curious to see how their offense looks. Shedeur wouldn't have to start day one. He can come in and push Justin Fields maybe and have a nice competition in the room. Fields is only on a 2-year deal, so it's not like they're tied to a long-term guy. And I think the more I think about this, the more it makes sense. And he's in the New York market. The Jets are dying for some relevancy after Aaron Rodgers has left town. And they have a lot of pieces out there. Garrett Wilson's still in town. They have Breece Hall. Alan Lazard, our boy, is back. They got him a nice little pay cut to come back. But their defense is solid. Like, if you actually look at the roster, it's not as bad as it seems. They need a competent quarterback. And I think Shedeur Sanders has that opportunity. I'm not super high on him, but I think, the Jets will kick the tires here and draft him if he's sitting here at 7. So that's what I'm going with.
I mean, the argument could be made that Aaron Rodgers had a competent season last year and they still didn't do very good.
Yeah, well, then you have Nathaniel Hackett as your OC, and you fire your head coach mid-season, and it was just a train wreck.
Yeah, no. All I'm going to say is, wow, I would not see that one coming. Way to think outside the box there, Justin. I think you're getting into draft season. For sure, getting closer to the draft. You're like, how could people change things up? There's one. If I did not have that one on my bingo card.
I mean, I guess they need a quarterback. I mean, they're sitting at 7 and Shador is there. I mean, I think they kick the tires. They have to.
I mean, I like Justin Fields. I was a person who said that the Bears should have just traded the number 1 overall pick and just got more of a draft haul and kept Fields. Let someone else draft Caleb Williams, but that's me. So getting on to the Carolina Panthers here. Okay. I know we've both kind of been mocking Tyler Warren here. I do still like that because I think that's a good option. But it's like DB is a need. I could see them going Jahdae Barron there out of Texas.
All right. Undersized corner, but makes tons of plays.
Yeah. Versatile, versatile cornerback. Good speed still.
Fast. Yeah. Well, Robbie, I'm going to keep the shockwaves going because we're at New Orleans. I picked number 9, and I am not doing this to create headlines. Derek Carr, reports are his shoulder hurts, which there's been a little more digging into that. It sounds like perhaps his shoulder might be fine. His shoulder might be fine, but he's kind of finding a way to get out of New Orleans. I'm looking at Jackson Dart. I think he is the guy under the radar. And if I'm wrong, you guys can come kill me in the comments. That's fine. Robbie, you talked about in our last mock, you said most teams get their franchise quarterbacks in the first round of the draft.
Yep,
you're sitting here at 9. Do. Jackson Dart, I think he has elite arm talent. I think his accuracy can be worked on, but gets to go play down south in a dome. Chris Olave on the outside. They definitely need more weapons, which they can get later in the draft. But, Kellen Moore's coming in, former quarterback, the lefty himself out of Boise State coming in. I think, bringing a guy like Dart into the building to kind of pair with him day one and for them to kind of have that quarterback head coach relationship. I think it'd be a tremendous fit and a guy that can maybe make things less bleak in New Orleans because I think things are pretty bleak there at the moment. So Jackson Dart's my pick at number 9.
Yeah, I mean, as a general manager, you wagered your career right there, Justin. That's for sure. Also, does the Ole Miss scheme worry you at all, as far as offensively?
I don't know. I watched the ball placement. I watch how he has anticipate, and I can't say the word, but how he anticipates guys coming open. Yep. You can't. I mean, elite arm talent doesn't come out all the time, and I think he can get solid coaching with Kellen Moore to clean up maybe some of the mechanics. And I think his accuracy is the number one thing he's got to work on. I wouldn't love Jackson Dart at like a Pittsburgh underneath a defensive head coach. Let's say I think he has to go into an offensive scheme or an offensive-minded program, and I think that's what Kellen Moore is going to bring to New Orleans. And hey, it could be a train wreck. I mean, I think Jackson Dart has a low floor but a super high ceiling. It's going to be one or the other. And you got to take a swing sometimes, and I think New Orleans is going to take a swing here. Or I would too. I love Jackson Dart. So.
Yep. No, it's easy to anticipate routes when there's only 4 of them that get run. So, that helps them. So, but no, getting on to the Chicago Bears here. I think I know the Bears fans, I think, kind of like this picks, but so I'm going to go Ashton Genty for the Bears.
Yeah, not much debate there. We're looking here at San Francisco. I'm looking at the offensive line. They're about to sign Brock Purdy to a big deal.
I thought you were going quarterback, man.
No, I mean quarterbacks. So we can go with little Graham Mertz, our friend down there in the bottom of the board. I'm looking at tackle, and Armand Membo is sitting here. I think he is a great fit here. You got Trent Williams. His best days are behind him. They lost Banks at guard to us in Green Bay. So I think they definitely need some more beef up front. And they also lost their backup left tackle to Kansas City. They took him. So they're pretty thin there on the offensive line. So I think Armand Membo is the play here.
Yeah, no, that one makes sense to me. Dallas Cowboys, you didn't trade up to get Shador. You should have. So let's see. Going with the Cowboys here. Let's see. Ooh, Matthew Golden. Keep him in Texas. I do kind of like that. Luther Burden. Ugh. I don't care that much. I think this is going to be the shocker. It's going to be Matthew Golden, actually.
All right, Matthew Golden with the tremendous combine, shooting up his value. Staying home in Dallas. And now we got
Banks might have made some sense too. Out of Texas, I think Dallas is going to draft a Texas boy. That's what I got a feeling.
All right, we'll see. Matthew Golden's a solid pick there. Again, I feel these receivers are super polarizing. It's like people love the receiver or hate him.
Yeah.
But we've been definitely getting that vibe. I think Ted McMillan is the only one that people are pretty steady on. It's like, yeah, he's pretty good. All right, now we're on to the Dolphins, and again, I'm looking again. What do we have here at offensive line? Got to protect your asset in Tua. They also lost a lot of guys on defense. I mean, if I look at corner offensive line, you got Will Johnson and Josh Simmons and Calvin Banks. I would say these are probably between the three guys I would look at. And honestly, I'm probably leaning towards Will Johnson coming off, I believe it was a turf toe injury.
Yeah.
Also he had some shoulder issues too. If he did have those concerns, he'd be a top 5, top 10 pick. I could see him coming down to Miami and bring some youth to that defense, because I feel like their defense is quite aged. So
yeah,
let's go with Will Johnson. And again, in that division too, with Josh Allen, and you got Drake May throwing the ball around there too. And then our boy Shedeur Sanders will be a Jet, right? So in this mock, you definitely need a good corner out there. So let's get Will Johnson, sending him down to South Beach.
All right, and now it's finally time for this pick that I've seen a lot. And I think, something that helps almost all quarterbacks is a good tight end. So this is where the fall for Tyler Warren stops. Keep them in the same colors. So some blue and white.
Yep. Not a far drive, stays in Big Ten country there. So definitely a good pickup for Indianapolis. And that takes us over to the Falcons. And they can go a lot of different ways here. They got Raheem Morris as a head coach, defensive-minded guy, and a young quarterback, Michael Penix. I could see them kind of going a lot of different routes. I see they have a need for linebacker, and I think our favorite guy before his torn labrum was Jahad Campbell. I think
he's still my favorite linebacker.
Yeah, I would love Jahad Campbell as a Packer. I don't think he falls as much as people think. And I think if Atlanta sees him here on the board, I think they jump all over and get their linebacker of the future here. And he's very versatile. Can play on the inside, can pass rush, super elite speed, can lay the wood too. So let's bring Jahad Campbell down to Atlanta at 15.
Yep. Now we got the Arizona Cardinals here. I think this one is going to be Josh Simmons here. We're going to go offensive line.
Got to protect Kyler Murray for sure. Yep. And now we got the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think this is one of the more no-brainer sides of the ball.
Wide receiver.
Yeah, we did joke about that last episode. They have to go defense. And now it's like, where's the value? They kind of need help all over. And, defensive interior, there's some guys here. Walter Nolan's available. Kenneth Grant. I think these are the two top interior guys on the board. I'm kind of looking. I think Walter Nolan makes sense here. I think he's just a little more versatile than Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant's more of just a run stuffer. He does do a little bit in the pass rush, but I think Walter Nolan has. I know there's some character issues there, or perhaps talking about how he'll try harder in the NFL than he did in college. I don't know. I feel like he can come in and make a difference, and I think he's a really tremendous talent in the pass and the run. So let's bring in Walter Nolan, defensive interior for Cincinnati.
Yep, and I think this one is going to be a pretty easy pick. This is going to be offensive line. Going to go Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Seahawks.
Sam Darnold getting a little protection there.
Yep.
And now we move to the Tampa Bay Bucks. They need edge big time, and I think really there hasn't been many edge guys taken thus far, if at all.
No.
So they kind of have a pick of the litter here, and it really just depends what they'd be looking for. Shamar Stewart has really kind of fallen, which is kind of surprising. I feel like
that lack of production is what's hurting them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the great combine maybe has worn off a little bit.
There could be some quite a bit of talent in the beginning of the second round here with these edge rushers, I think.
Yeah, or it's just like, I almost wonder how PFF is valuing some of these guys, because I could see Michael Williams still going in the first round. If I look at linebacker, they definitely need help at linebacker as well. Jalen Walker is sitting here, and I think this actually might be my pick, if I'm being honest.
Some people have Walker really high, like top 15.
Yeah, so I mean, I could see him going at 19, and it's kind of right where PFF is seeing him drafted. So let's take Jalen Walker there. They definitely need help on the defensive side of the ball in Tampa. They got torched last year.
Yeah. All right, now going to Denver. I think this is a good spot right here for Luther Burden.
Oh,
pair him with Cortland Sutton.
I wanted Luther. I like Luther Burden. Playmaker. That's the one word to describe him. He's a playmaker. All right, Pittsburgh. I don't know why. I feel like they could get Kenneth Grant in the interior, but I would say the one guy that I really love in this draft is Nick Emenware.
Yeah.
Getting him on the back end. Big frame, 6'3", 227. I think he's a bigger body guy that fits well in that AFC North kind of culture of just dudes that could lay the lumber. I think he's the best safety in the draft. Malachi Starks is highly rated. I just feel like he's more of a finesse safety versus a guy like Nick Emenware that can be a little more aggressive. So that's what I'm going to take for Pittsburgh at 21.
All right. And then the Los Angeles Chargers. I think this is, normally I've been pairing Jim Harbaugh with his Michigan guy, and I'm going to stick with that, but we're going to go Kenneth Grant and switch it up. It's not going to be the tight end. It's going to be big Kenneth Grant bringing in the defensive line there. Joe Alt last year, it's like Jim Harbaugh. He going for the big boys.
Yeah, big boy that he recruited and knows very well. So definitely love the pick. And now the bell is rung for our Green Bay Packers. And, if we just look at what's on the board for receiver, Mika Ibuka is sitting there. I'm personally not as high on him as maybe others. I feel like, he's okay. I don't know.
He'd be a quality wide receiver, like definitely a number 2. Like I don't like throwing too much shade at him. He's going to be a productive wide receiver.
Yeah, I just say it matters on the scheme and the fit. I wouldn't hate it. I don't know if that would be he's an option for me right now. We also look at the defensive backs. I think corner is an interesting position here too.
Yeah, Trey Amos there at the top.
Yeah, Trey Amos is, again, I think he's solid. I don't know at 23 if he gets me excited. I think he could definitely fit a need we have. And the other area is edge. And again, like Donovan Ezaraku, he's a smaller.
There. Yeah, Mike Green.
Yeah, and I know Mike Green's got some character concerns and some of those regards, and he kind of played a lower level competition. Young guy too, only at almost 22 years old, so it definitely fits the mold for the Packers.
Does he fit the 4-3 scheme though?
Yeah, and that's kind of what concerns me. It's like I'm not seeing a lot of names here that scream, "Heck yeah, let's get them." Yeah. I'm looking here at corner. I really like Siobhan Revel. I really do. I know it's kind of risky with the ACL tear, but if he did not have that ACL injury, I would think he's a top 20 pick just with his frame and his talent. At 23, a tad older. I mean, he's not old, but he's somebody that's still relatively young. I think I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take a little risk here at 23 and take Siobhan Revel just from a measurables and skill set perspective in a position of need a little bit. So let's take him.
Oh, you know who that guy reminds me of though, right?
Refresh my memory. Who does Siobhan Revel? Sam Shields?
Nope, Kevin King.
Oh boy, so maybe we should reverse that pick, huh?
I'm just letting you know that's kind of who I think of when I think of Siobhan Revel. But I think he seems to be a little bit better, so I'm not mad about the pick. All right, now we're going to the Minnesota Vikings here. Let's see. Ooh, it's gonna be a tricky one. I think they like their back. Ooh.
Yeah, Marion Hampton.
I mean, they got Aaron Jones. They do have Aaron Jones there. I think they could wait, get a running back in like the second or third, get like a Cam Scatterbo. I think I could see them going with Trey Amos.
Yep.
Actually,
I think Trey Amos. Yeah. I'm sorry.
You're good. I'm
okay.
just wondering if there's more of like a different man cornerback, but they do like their corners. I think Trey Amos fits.
Yeah, and then this one here, not much time. Ibuka's going to Houston. Same. He's C.J. Stroud going with his old teammate.
I don't know why that one just seems to be just aligned. It just seems to work out a lot.
Yeah, and it's honestly the Texans should be hoping that's how it works. Tank Dell's out.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs is gone. Nico Collins needs a running mate. It's match made in heaven there.
Yep, and then we're going to the LA Rams. I think this is where the Colson Loveland fall stops. I didn't think he'd make it past the Chargers, but I think Loveland would do good there in the Rams. Pair him up with Stafford.
Okay, Ooh. Baltimore, and I think the Mike Green fall stops.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, he better take Mike Green here.
There's
big
too much.
Mean Mike Green in Baltimore.
Yeah, and there's just too much potential there for him to keep falling. I think.
Yeah.
If you're gonna think he's gonna succeed somewhere, it'd be a culture like Baltimore that just loves
guy
defense.
with character concerns goes to Baltimore. That's shocking. I didn't see that one coming. All right, now we're going to the Detroit Lions. Ooh. They need a wide receiver, and that is they clearly have Amon-Ra St. Brown,
Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams.
Matt Laporta. And I find that weird. I don't know why they marked that as a receiver need. I think that's silly.
He's a tight end, but yeah.
No, I meant just the fact that they're saying that they need a receiver. I think they got weapons. And Jahmyr Gibbs is essentially a poor man's receiver too. I mean, he catches the ball in the backfield,
Yeah, but I feel like there's teams that it's like, they just need their one type, and I do understand it, because part of me is like, you got Io Manor and Higgins there, both kind of big body guys. I could see them almost taking one of those guys now that's later in the draft. Otherwise, they need edge. Ooh, would it like a James Pierce Jr. here? I could see that one being pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go James Pierce Jr. for them, even though I don't like that being a Packer fan.
Yeah,
but I think that'd be nice for them.
Yeah. Definitely a bigger, wiry frame, very quicker on the edge.
Yeah. Pair him with Aiden Hutchinson. Ooh.
Well, that leaves us with Washington. This is another quick pick for me. I'm going to Marion Hampton. I think they need, running backs on their top needs. One of the best backs is on the board yet at 29. I think it's a no-brainer to give Jay Daniels yet another weapon to work with here. So let's give Marion Hampton to Washington.
Yep, I think if you're the Bills, you go corner here probably. I know they want edge, but I'm not a big Ezraku fan. Ooh, and then we got this one's going to be tough. It's like,
if we do the three positions of need for them, here's who's on the board at by ranking.
Yeah, do they go with more of an edge rusher here? Shamar Stewart, that's what we'll go with. They're going to go with the
athlete.
The athlete.
All right. Well, this unfortunately works really well for the Chiefs, and Gray's able sitting there.
Yep.
I think this is another no-brainer. Protect Mahomes. They lost Joe Tooney. Creed Humphrey's still there.
Yep.
They had to bring in another tackle and the thing is that tackle they signed in free agency was the backup in San Francisco. So he's not even a sure thing. So it's like bring in more bodies in the room. Gray's able will be a fan favorite there in KC.
Ooh, and then we're going to go to Philadelphia. And I guess, this is probably, ooh, actually, this is pretty easy. Michael Williams. I was like, who's an edge rusher? And then I saw the G, and I just said, he's got to go to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I feel like he fills the Josh Sweat role. He just comes in and replaces him.
Yeah, I mean, it's
right there.
Goes back with Nolan Smith, former teammate in college. Jalen Carter's on the line there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a draft. This was a weird one. And it not
was
necessarily a bad way.
Justin.
It was just,
Thanks, Justin. Mr.
I don't
Quarterback
know.
Guru.
I'm just telling you, I took your advice in the last mock. You said that's how teams get their franchise quarterbacks in the first round, and
they do.
Again, we're doing
and we can't
these
make
mocks.
trades. We can't make trades.
Right.
So
right, and I think there's definitely going to be trades. And honestly, I don't, just as a Packer pod, like, do I love Siobhan Revel there? No, I think Trey Amos is solid and okay. I wouldn't mind that pick. I'm not as big on or as high on him. I could really see Green Bay if the board fell like this falling back. Really, I really do, or trading back, I should say. A lot of my favorite guys, Kenneth Grant was disappointed you picked him because he would have been my pick for Green Bay at 23 if he was sitting there. So
I know I wanted him too, but that's one of those ones where it's like, your bias and you're like, I really want him to take Colson Loveland so that way the Packers can get Kenneth Grant the next pick. But I'm like, if I'm the Chargers, it's like I want Kenneth Grant, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, Luther Bird was my other guy. If you didn't take him at 20, he probably would have been my guy at 23. So I just had to go to plan C, D, or E.
I think his skill set fits well there.
Yeah, I agree.
So no, I'm actually pretty happy. I mean, obviously there were some shocking picks, and you'll get roasted in the comments. I hope my comments are better. They're like, clearly, put that down in the comments. Do you want Justin as your GM, or do you want me as your GM? So put that down there. Make sure
we all
you leave
know
a
what
like.
the right answer is. We know what the right answer is.
Yeah. Either way, just make sure to leave a like on the video, because you got a video. You've clearly watched it this far, so that's pretty good. And then,
well, hey, you talk video, Robbie. Yeah, big news today. We are officially live on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Trying to grow the community out there too. We had a lot of people reach out to us, so we're happy to report we're live, and we're going to have that link in the description and in the video. So please check us out there too. Some exciting news coming on here.
Yep, and be sure to just keep watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so that way you can get notified when we do our next mock draft that should be coming out next week. Until next time, good talking. See ya.